Hi everyone, welcome back to Misinformation in Science and Society. Here to listen, not to judge. I'm your host Annie, and today with us we have Grant Gross. Yeah, so welcome. Could you please first introduce yourself a little bit and what you do?
Yes, my name is Grant Gross. I've been a journalist for 30 some years, longer than I care to admit. Most of it, or about half of that, are a little more in the tech industry, covering the tech industry. I spent 14 years or so writing about tech policy for a company called IDG, which publishes PC World and Computer World and CIO and a bunch of other tech publications. Um, and then I've freelanced for about 6 years. And then just very recently, in the last 4 or 5 months, I've started writing for the marketing department at a cybersecurity company called ExtraHop.
Yeah, so why did you choose these careers initially?
Well, I was thinking about why I chose journalism way back when. I kind of I decided I wanted to major in journalism when I was a senior in high school. And so I don't think I had a super noble reason for going into journalism. I thought it sounded interesting, and it was a job that was not going to keep you behind the desk, you
Mhm.
know, 8 hours a day or whatever it was. And it just seemed like an interesting kind of career to go into at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's your favorite, now that you've chosen this career, what's your favorite part of doing what you do now?
Um, um, I'll talk about the journalism since the other thing is really new. Yeah, I mean, I covered tech policy for a long time, and it was I really enjoyed kind of holding government officials kind of responsible to um, for what they say and what kind of policies they advocated for on the technology front. I covered a lot of, I covered the Edward Snowden leaks or whatever you want to call them. I covered some kind of ill-fated bills that were pushed but failed to pass because of intervention by people online. So yeah, there were kind of a lot of kind of impactful stories during my time as a tech policy reporter, and it was just interesting to be part of that and to kind of record that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So why do you think that truth or correct information is so important in our society, our daily life? And why do you think misinformation is such a big issue, especially right now?
Well, I think truth, or I mean, it's hard to get to objective truth sometimes, but I think as a democratic society, but in particular, we have to have a level of understanding that most people agree to about what is factual, what is true, and 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 kind of we have to have a common understanding of kind of what's happening in the world and what the truth is and what that means for the way we vote, the way we conduct our lives, things like that. And I think that's in the last several years that's fractured a lot, and that's led to a lot of fracturing of the political debate, a lot of name calling, a lot of uh, conspiracy theories that are out there, a lot of misunderstanding about how government works, how the media works, how everything works. And so I think if we don't, if I mean, you're never going to get 100% of people understand it with the same version of truth. But I think if you don't have kind of a solid majority of people who say, this I believe and this I don't believe, it leads to kind of a fracturing of democracy over the long run. That is kind of dangerous in many ways. What was the second part of your question? Sorry.
Oh, just why do you think misinformation is such a big issue, especially right now, maybe?
Well, I think I watched another one of your guests say misinformation and disinformation has been around for a long time, and I think that's true. I think it's been pretty much as long as there goes my dog in the background. As long as people have been spreading information, they've been spreading disinformation, and so um, to either to hold power or to take power away from somebody else. I think the internet has aided in the spread of disinformation. And I mean, the internet has done a lot of great things, and I think it's given voices to a lot of people who didn't have voices before, and some people who should have voices, right? It's also given voices to some people who are, you know, a little. I would crackpots is a loaded word, but people who are either dishonest or trying to manipulate people or are have some very unconventional ideas, and those ideas have spread through social media and things like that, and it's a lie. I don't remember who the quote is from, but a lie goes around the world faster than the truth goes. So the internet in general and social media in particular have given people who would take advantage of that easy access to spread in some cases disinformation, conspiracy theories, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So, obviously in journalism, like you deal with and spread a lot of like information.
Yeah.
So how do like journalists try to like avoid or like counteract like misinformation in your work?
Yeah. I mean, I think I can, I think I'd say that most journalists, and I'm not going to say all journalists because I think there are some bad actors out there, but I think most journalists try to report and um, describe reality as they see it. And we all come with our biases. So reality as I see it may be slightly different than reality as you see it, right?
Mhm.
Um, but I think most journalists are try to be uh, truthful actors and try to be honest about what they're describing and what they're reporting on. I think we've seen the rise in recent years of these very biased news outlets online from one extreme or the other, and I with some of those not even trying to um, report accurate information. I think they're in some cases they're either heavily biased by their worldview or they're not even trying to be accurate. But I mean I like that. I like the counter to that has been like these fact checking sites and services, and they don't always get it right either. People make mistakes, but I think that those have been helpful and valuable. I think some people would argue that they're biased as well, and um, um, I think most of them try to be as honest as they can. I think one of the big jobs of media is to try to um, contradict misinformation that's out there and say, no, that's not really what's happening. This is what's happening.
Mhm. Yeah. So then what can like regular people do in their daily life to eliminate or avoid reduce misinformation in their own life or
Yeah,
maybe?
it's kind of difficult. I mean, it's pretty difficult in some ways. I mean, there's a lot of information out there, and it's sometimes difficult to determine what is, you know, good information versus bad information. And I think people have tend to have kind of confirmation biases where they tend to believe things that tend to go to sites where they are going to get information that agrees with their worldview, right? And so they the sites they frequent tend to be self-reinforcing. Um, but I think that as consumers of news and consumers of information, the best we can do is to not get ourselves in that little bubble that, I'm going to just go to websites or newscasts or whatever that just confirm my already held biases to
Mhm.
kind of consume or cross the spectrum within boundaries. There are sites that I'm not going to go to because I know they're bad actors, right? On the right, uh, I would suggest that Infowars is not trying to be trying to be accurate, right? I mean, there are also news outlets on the left that have the same problem. But I think if consumers can kind of focus on a group of, I hate to say mainstream, but kind of widely accepted media and but not stick to their kind of specific bias, and that gives them a fuller picture of what's going on in the world. It's tough to do. I mean, we all have a limited amount of time to do stuff, and so but my advice would just be stay away from an information bubble that kind of confirms your expectations already.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So those are all my questions about misinformation. So is there anything else you would like to add about that?
No, I think I mean I think it's really tough for people these days to kind of separate what kind of good information from bad information, and I think um, the media and other institutions have some obligation to help them with that. I also think there's a small group of people these days that are kind of gone way out there on both extremes and are believing kind of wild conspiracies about lizard people and stuff like that and people's drinking babies blood and I think we have to recognize that for some people they go down a rabbit hole and they may not come back. But I think for most thinking people, you can, if you consume a kind of broad range of information sources, you can get a good reading on what's going on out there and what's accurate.
Yeah. Awesome. So I have like two more just fun questions.
Sure.
Um, so the first one is, what are some of your like inspirations in life? Like what inspires you? Whether that's like a person, idea, book, anything.
I saw your question. I tried to think. My wife inspires me a lot. She's very hardworking and very thoughtful and very smart and a great parent. And she inspires me. She's very ethical and she's kind of a manager of people and does a great job of managing people, which is a tough job. So that she's one of my inspirations. Um, I get inspired by music a lot. I play guitar and bass guitar, and there's a lot of bands out there that are thoughtful and inspiring. One of my favorite musicians these days is a guy named Jason Isbell, who's kind of a country slash Americana guy who writes great lyrics and sings thoughtful songs.
Yeah, awesome. And do you have any advice for people, especially teens, about like anything?
Advice for teens: be careful on social media. That would be piece of advice I'd give. I'm a dad of a teen, and see his contemporaries run into problems when they're not super careful about what they're posting out there. Um, other advice. I mean, don't get too cynical about stuff that's going on. The we've gone through a time in the United States over the last 8, 10 years where we've had a lot of, I don't know if upheaval is the right word, but a lot of arguments and disagreements and fracturing of people, and it seems like in some ways we're as divided as a country as we've ever been, at least since the mid 1800s or so. But I would encourage young people to be optimistic about the future, and I think there's a lot to be also optimistic about.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that. And thank you for making time for this. And yeah, it was nice talking to you.
All right. Well, thanks for inviting me.
All right. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.